Ladies and gentlemen, today is the first day of the year 2020. This day, everyone in the world are happy, celebrating, and wishing for their own people a year full of happiness and wealth. For the Vietnamese American who live in the United States, they have a President Trump leading the country and to bring the economy to the peak of glory with the unemployment rate very low. Jobs and businesses are improving well. We are blessed with a spring season full of happiness in the United States. Hence, we need to reserve a little time to think about our people who are still living and suffering in Vietnam on the first day of the year 2020. On the occasion of New Year's Day, I will take a moment to look forward to 95 million compatriots in Vietnam. Dear fellow countrymen, there have been many leaders of the United States, from President Donald Trump to Secretary of State and ministers of congressmen who have come to Vietnam. Most of their speeches emphasizes that all freedom and democracies of Vietnamese people are within the reach of the Vietnamese people instead of the United States or China. Therefore, we need to understand that to have freedom and democracy and to be free from the rule of the Viet Cong and the Chinese communists, we must exercise the rights in our hands. Only Vietnamese people love and support the Vietnamese people. Therefore, only people in Vietnam can solve the problem. All overseas Vietnamese communities only support material, spiritual, legal, and ultimately international advocacy. I have only one wish, and that is for all Vietnamese can think about their future, of their children and grandchildren, the survival of their nation, and the happiness of their families, so that they should hold hands to use their rights. The rights to bring the people of Vietnam back to prosperity and to escape the domination of the Chinese Communist Party. The Viet Cong is in the hands of 95 million compatriots in the country. We should never think and to expect that other nations have a responsibility and a duty to set us free. We have to stand up and be strong like the people of Hong Kong, so other countries like the United States will have laws to support freedom and democracy for Vietnam. Once again, I pray to the souls of the mountains, the river, and our ancestors that all Vietnamese people would think about their country and sacrifice their own happiness so that they are no longer being selfish, thinking that the suffering of their compatriots are problems of Americans or other countries. The Vietnamese must find their own way to solve these unhappiness. They must find a way to bring the Vietnamese people out of the hands of the Viet Cong and the Chinese communists. This is my first words of the new year. I repeat that from here until the Taiwanese presidential election, January 11, 2020, and after the election. You should be mentally prepared for a great conflict between the United States and China taking place in the South China Sea. But don't celebrate too soon, because the first part of the trading agreement is about to be signed. President Donald Trump has stated that this agreement is only signed by the President of the United States and the President of China. That means Xi Jinping himself must fly to the United States to sign the agreement in the White House instead of assigning others. As you can see, the Chinese Communist Party ignored President Donald Trump's offer and replaced it by Secretary of Commerce to sign. I don't think the US and China trade agreement will take place. Communists always follow the plan set as follows. When they are strong, they attack. And controversially, when they are weaker, they will sit at the table and negotiate. That is my view from the 1975 war between the Republic of South Vietnam and the North Vietnam Communists. When they have the upper hand, they will play by violating international agreements. Therefore, don't be so happy to see China agree to sign the trading agreement with the US because they are surrendering. They are just buying time so that the United States won't increase the tariffs, so that they can rescue their own economy from collapsing. Demonstrations in Shandong and Jiangxi have occurred. At the same time, Chinese Communist military region also rebelled. These fluctuations will occur before and after the presidential election day in Taiwan. All the compatriots in Vietnam should be mentally prepared. I earnestly appeal to all of our overseas compatriots who are living in happiness. The year of 2020 is full of health and wealth. We have a talented president who has put the U.S. economy on the rise and reduces unemployment rate to its lowest level. We are fortunate to have President Donald Trump run the United States. He is tending to dissolve the communist regime of the Chinese Communist Party in general, and the world in particular. Although we are happy, we cannot enjoy the full debt when our people are still suffering. We must remind our people in the country that we are spiritual, material, and legal supporters of the country. We are the ones who will speak up human rights at the United States Embassy in the United Nations. I would like to remind you that to claim democracy and freedom is in the hands of the people in the country instead of in the hands of the United States or other countries in the world. Only Vietnamese people love Vietnamese people. Only the Vietnamese have the power and the full voice to stand up to overthrow the communist regime ruled by the Viet Cong and the Chinese communists. The year 2020 has begun. The first day of the year is also the day when China and Viet Cong hands over the Chindu Agreement. Therefore, we must do our best to protect the country in our hands. Please remember that we are happy in the United States or Australia. And in Vietnam, our homeland has more than 95 million people suffering. Please remember that the destiny of the country is in the hands of 95 million people in the country, not in the hands of China, the United States, or the United Nations. It is Master Thong Lai's opinion. Wishing you a Happy New Year's in the United States. But please don't forget that the people in the country are still suffering. In contrast, the people in the country who are suffering need to stand up to gain freedom and escape the cruel rule of the Viet Cong and China communists. We must work together to reclaim what the communists has robbed. The communists own Vietnam from robbing sovereignty, and the government from the Republic of South Vietnam with weapons, unlike the United States government. a president elected by the vote of the majority of Americans. The Vietnamese Communist government was formed by weapons, fraud, robbery, and violations of the Paris Agreement, an agreement on ending the war and restoring peace in Vietnam. We must bear in mind that the government of the Republic of South Vietnam has been abolished, but the government of the Republic of South Vietnam is the legitimate government. The Vietnamese government rules freedom by raising its guns, robbing, and not being elected by the people. Therefore, you already know what to do. The destiny of the home country is not in the hands of the United States, not in the hands of Japan, not in the hands of European countries or other Southeast Asian countries, but it is in your own hands. Reclaim human rights and all the communists has robbed by your uprising and total demonstration. If you don't march to protest and stand up to overthrow the communist regime, the United States can't do anything. Best regards.